Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is all about what's coming up in December 2021, and I'm going to do a slightly different design for the reading for this particular pre-month coming reading than I normally do, because normally, if you are familiar with this channel, I tend to try and look at career and love and general well-being and so forth as a number of different lenses. But I think it's an interesting month to look at, and I think there's a different design for the reading that might be more interesting and helpful, which is because it's the last month in the year, what we're going to do with this reading is we'll have a look using tarot to start with around the key themes, energies and so forth that are coming up for you in December. And then we'll use tarot to have a bit of a look at a retrospective, like what has 2021 been for you, what were the blessings, the challenges, the lessons, whatever it might be, just a few cards from Spirit around that Spirit thinks is worth reflecting on, and then a few which are almost like a preview of coming attractions for January 2022, moving into 2022, so for the new year. And then we'll use oracles to have a similar thing, December, and then what could be coming up, what are the energies as we move into the new year. I will do a much more detailed reading around the new year, which will be published sometime late December. But at this point, this is just to give a little bit of a sense of December is that last month in the year, and psychologically we think of it as the closing out of something to open up something else. So we'll just look at what the energies are for that. As always, the important thing is to find the reading that is right for you. There's a couple of potential ways to help choose on top of whatever you normally do. One is that I'm using Chakra Placement Stones. For pile 1, I have the heart chakra. Pile 2, I have the solar plexus. And pile 3, I have the third eye chakra. These that's not necessarily what any of the themes are going to be about. When I use these stones, it's just kind of energies that I think might permeate this sort of reading. So those energies might help you choose. What also might help you choose is we'll use a different tarot deck in each reading. So for pile 1, we're going to use the 8th house tarot. So that's that backing there. Pile 2, the cute and creepy tarot. That's that backing there. And pile 3, the Joyseeker tarot. So that's that backing there. So those sort of combinations might help you work out which one you would tune to most, or you might have some other way that you do it, in which case you do you. You may also feel drawn to more than one reading, and that could certainly fit with a reading that's going to be more themic on that sort of level. So certainly if you are drawn to more than one, go to more than one. Whatever works for you. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps as always are going to be in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So these first tarot cards are really December, so that we're going to be looking at themes in December, and as I say, then we'll shuffle and pull some more cards for what are the key issues from 2021, and then what's the sort of preview for the beginning of 2022 as well, and that sort of crossover point. So there's a few things here I think for December. I think for many of you, I'm getting a sense of somebody coming out from a period of being sort of closed away in some way, and obviously that could apply to many people in many countries at the moment where the pandemic has caused lockdowns, caused lots of working from home, which is potentially a sort of energy with the Emperor reversed and the Hermit reversed, like coming out from that, being able to now be back into the workplace, be back around other people, less on your own. So there's definitely that sort of sense, and I think that that's not before time if that's the case, because it looks as though you've been carrying quite a lot of emotional energy around something, feeling like you couldn't really express how you felt about something, whereas in December it looks like that moves into a more open and grounded sort of energy, as though there can be more discussion about something that you want to discuss. And in that case, with the Knight of Air or the Knight of Swords, you may surprise people, you may even surprise yourself. So there's a generic sense here, I think, for some, of coming out from being behind the scenes on your own and so forth to be more with other people, but there is an adjustment around potentially work and authority figures and what you can and can't say as a result of that. But you do look like you find a good balance between what you really believe and what is materially possible during this period of time. So I think that many of the people who've come to pile one, you've been doing it a bit tough, and I think a lot will be around something as pragmatic and almost universal as the way that the people have had to deal with the pandemic and the implications of that materially, work, connections with others and so forth. So definitely for those who've been feeling that and feeling constrained, by December, you're really moving out, and you may well have been able to do that already depending upon where you are, but it looks as though if that's the case, it's like it really starts to flourish at this point and you start to feel more able to express who you really are, not kind of hide that behind the scenes. There's certainly also a sense for people, if it's not about that, if it's not about getting back out into the world, back out into seeing people, back out into being able to be more open about what you feel, then there could be things around relationships of a similar nature. It could be a work relationship where there has been, and maybe you're still working through something around an authority figure that was not emotionally gelling with you. If that's the case, then again, there's still this sense with the Six of Earth or Six of Pentacles there that something better is coming through. So I think you may have the opportunity, if you have been in a workplace that you haven't felt happy, you haven't felt that you were able to be true to yourself, it looks as though by late December, I'd say, if we see this almost as a storyline, there may be a helping hand, literally, like this looks like in this card, a benefactor, another job opportunity, something like that. Or you may at least hear about that opportunity. Given that it's December, there may not be that many changes occurring at that time. It may be something that's more coming into January, February in 2022. So it'll be interesting to see what the preview of coming attractions looks like. So that I definitely feel for some, you are getting ready for potentially a different workplace, a different job, a different career, or even finding the resources to go out on your own in some way. And in relationships, there is a shift to something that is more balanced, coming out of a period maybe where you've had to hide your light under a bushel, so to speak, because of maybe issues, and they're still around a bit in December. It's like sorting through that and working out what you need to say to liberate yourself. So overarching, the sense is of liberation and new opportunity, but what this is saying, what you are coming out with, depends very much on how this energy, which is around power, workplaces, relationships where power is involved, what's emotionally resonant to you, that's the key for you. Whatever it is that has been stuck, and for whatever reason, you are coming out of that, particularly by the end of December. It's like you have an aha moment when you start to sort of do what you want to do in some way and be a little bit more open about what you want to do. You have an aha moment about what is working and what isn't working for you in a relationship or work, and that then opens this energy for you. So I think it's promising, but I think there are still a couple of little issues to work out or to sort out. So given that, let's ask Spirit for 3 cards for each of the lenses of, firstly, what over 2021 as a whole is worth you considering, reflecting on, taking forward, celebrating, whatever that might be. And then secondly, what's the preview for early 2022? So firstly, what I would say, pile 1, is that sense I had that maybe a new opportunity is coming, but it's not yet there at the end of December. It's like you hear about it, you make the connections that you need. I think that's true because early into 2022, it's still like a concept or a thought. It hasn't fully landed. We have the Ace of Earth or Ace of Pentacles. Aces are always blessings, but when it's reversed, that would suggest to me that it is not quite there yet. It is something you will become aware of. It's almost as though something that happens, so whether it's a new relationship, whether it's a work situation, I think for many this is around work or how you make money in some way. You will hear something, some secrets come out, it makes you feel very pragmatic about what to do. I think it's connected to this. So it feels to me that for many people who've come to this pile during December, You're going to really start to define what you want to do materially. And in doing that, you'll start to make connections that are ultimately going to be very worthwhile. But in the early part of 2022, you're really looking at making sure you make pragmatic decisions, that you don't rush into something until you get more information, because it just looks like there's an opportunity, but with the moon there's still sort of secrets and so forth around it, or things that aren't clear. And you've learnt from whatever this is, something that hasn't really worked out, and there's an energy of that here, which I'll get to, has taught you to be more careful. If this is about relationship, a similar thing. It's if there's someone new around you, then you're carrying a little bit of scarring, I think, from a former relationship. So you're going to take care. You're not just going to rush in. But I think the Spirit is saying that's fine. Let the time pass to work out what it is you don't know yet. It looks promising, but it hasn't formed or come into being fully by the beginning of January. What Spirit is saying to reflect on, and why I think they're saying that it's important to wait until you get more information, is this is very much confirming that something has happened to you in this last year which has not been fair. There has literally been some form of injustice done. Now, it could be as broad as the injustice that many people have experienced by global issues around the pandemic, and without it being necessarily a nefarious person doing something to you. It could just be that your capacity to really take your career forward, or your relationships forward, or just the joy of life forward has been limited because of what's been happening in 2021. That's possible. Or it could literally be that something, particularly with the Three of Pentacles reversed, that you were maybe working on has not really come into being because something wrong was done. This could literally be somebody has taken the credit for something, somebody has collaborated with you but then taken it further without you, something like that. There could be something in that space. Or it could be in relationship, the breakdown of a long-term relationship and legal battles around it. So for some of you, this may be around energy that's been happening, picking up that reversed Emperor and reversed Queen of Cups. The good thing is that what you need to take from this is the lesson about making choices that are rational, with the Two of Air there, the Two of Swords, and that are clear, and that you remove the blindfold. So I think these two are very, very clearly connected. So it's saying what you've learned from this is not to rush in. You are a little bit someone who, once you get excited about something you do, there's that Knight of Air quality around you. And the Knight of Air does rush in. They're unusual, they're individual, they're usually excitable. Knight of Air and Knight of Fire are both a bit like this. So I think it's saying that you maybe did rush into something, a relationship, a work collaboration, a job, whatever it might have been, without necessarily having enough information to make the decisions around it. And so all that Spirit wants you to know about that is in many ways the worst is over. Something better is coming in, and you will start to get a sense of it in December, but it won't be fully formed. And Spirit is saying wait till you get all the information. Not that it's necessarily anything bad at all in this new opportunity or new relationship, whatever it is. It's just that learn from that. Learn to hold back, keep your ambitions, your desires, whatever it is, a little bit to yourself until you are ready to come out. It gives you a stronger position. You weren't in a strong position for some reason in relation to whatever this energy was. So let's have a look at some of the oracles. So as I said, what I want to do with this is the intention of some of the oracle cards that were intuitively chosen for this pile was firstly the December energy and then the January energy. So we're just going to go through with that to see the sorts of things that Spirit wants you to think about, or the energies just in general that may be helpful or you need to be aware of. So December. Okay, so that very much, if you think about it, that very much fits with exactly what this is saying. There is a release. You are getting released from something. You will see that coming, and the real release energy is in December, pile one. But the new consolidation, what you then move to and whatever this is, needs guidance, needs time. So wait for the information. Connect with Spirit. Pay attention, I'm getting, to things like dreams, and if you see synchronicities and so forth, I think you are going to have a lot of spiritual guidance around you It's particularly, say, with the moon connecting there, you may be quite psychic or very psychic with that sort of connection. Certainly it suggests that information will come to you at that level with dreams, signs and so forth, or your own sort of inner knowing if you're someone who, you know, has a capacity for claircognizance or clairvoyance or something like that. So that will give you the information, but it is understanding what trapped you before was possibly jumping in before you were ready, or you felt the need for the release because you are someone who is very sort of excitable and you have lots of energy and lots of ideas and so forth, and just that spirit of 2021 with lockdowns and so forth might have in fact been something that really was hard to take emotionally. But guidance about what to do with the new opportunities that are coming through in 2022. I'm also getting guidance around health. Get good advice from doctors and therapists and so forth that you trust, because if some of this was about excitable energy and being constrained, then really making sure that you feel well fed and you get lots of sleep and you really look after your health is going to be important as well too, to make the most of it. What else do we have? So it's an energy around December and an energy. Okay, so this is telling me again, I do think most of this is around career, to be honest, career or you know, being in the world a bit more in some way, creatively, or just free to do what you want to do a little bit more. It could be around relationship, but I think for most who come here, it's more around work or who you are in the world. And part of the reason I say that, apart from the fact that this feels very much like work-related stuff, is looking at this, I feel, again, it's around power dynamics, moving from power dynamics where somebody else was pulling the strings, somebody else, you know, this emperor reversed, and that could literally be the world, politics and so forth, pulling the strings on, making us feel a bit trapped. Or it could be within your situation, something in a workplace or a collaboration where somebody else was pulling the strings, somebody else was the boss, somebody else maybe got more from this than you did because they were the ringmaster. What you are moving towards is appreciation. You're moving towards someone who's potentially a benefactor or a support or a new boss or something like that, but they're much more appreciative of what you do and what you bring. They're much more focused on that. And again, when you get that sense, I think that will be part of the guidance. When you feel truly appreciated and you know that there's something real to that, then you will be starting to get the information you need to make the pragmatic decision. So again, what will the messengers say to you for December and then into January? Okay, so for December, embrace the dark. I think this is saying whatever you have been going through, and I don't think December 2021 is the worst of 2021. I think you've been going through this for a while. I think December is actually the time when you start to release yourself from it. But whatever it is, there were lessons in this. Embrace it as lessons. You know, sometimes we do go through difficult times and they teach us things so that when we get better opportunities coming through, we don't then make those same mistakes again or whatever. So embrace those, learn from those, understand that, and also understand that, as they say, it's darkest before the dawn. And there is definitely that sense here. It's a sense of coming out from the nighttime into the day, and it's through the month that occurs. Into the new year, it says, see yourself in nature. I think that's, again, this sort of sense. There's something very earthy about this. If it's not about work, then maybe it is about health, your well-being and that kind of thing. So definitely get the sort of support that you need for that. Get out more into nature if you can, particularly if some of this was things like lockdowns that were making it hard to do that. So there's definitely a sense of take advantage of that and really getting in sync with your body and what it's telling you that you want. So let's also have a look at what you can manifest, what you can bring about in December, and then what the potential is in early 2021. Okay, so illumination, it's interesting. Embrace the dark, but you can manifest illumination. So in understanding and embracing the dark, you have clarity. There is clarity coming here, and that's probably the primary message of the Night of Air. There's like lots of aha moments for you in December, and allow that illumination to come through. Allow yourself to reflect on what happened and release the dark once you've understood it. because that will bring you inspiration. And again, this feels like something creative. It feels like a job. It feels like something like that, where you will really be appreciated for what's new and different that you bring in, and that what's more truly you. You won't be dancing to somebody else's tune. You'll be conducting and writing your own tune, so to speak. So let's finish off with some astrology energy. We'll start firstly just with what are some of the astrological energies in December. So we'll just focus on that, and then we'll use the Astro Chakra cards to close out on advice for balance and to get that best move from what was a little bit tricky that you had to work through into something that shows a lot more promise. So firstly, Spirit, can we have some astrological energy that is representative of the experience for pile 1 in December 2021 and leading into the new year? Okay, so firstly, because we've got the 5th house, it definitely makes me feel a lot of this is around creativity. It could also be about relationship with that, because sometimes romance is that. It could be certainly suggesting, particularly in the order of this, that a new relationship is in the works for you, a new romance potentially into the late part of December 2021 into the new year. So certainly that could be the case. So any of you where you're going, well, it really isn't work, but I have had a difficult year around relationships. I felt cut off. I felt I wasn't in the right relationship. I really need to sort that out. Then this certainly suggests that having done the work, you can bring something better in. Probably won't be around given the Ace of Pentacles reversed in, or clear, so to speak, in January, but as the year progresses, probably within the first 3 to 4 months, you may well blossom into something where you feel emotionally appreciated. But it's also potentially around creativity, because that's the other thing that the 5th house talks about. It may even be suggesting that you move from a rather conventional and possibly for you restrictive work into a work environment that is more creative and allows you to be more creative and to be appreciated for what's unique about you and what you can bring to the table. This certainly for some has the energy of somebody who is a bit of an iconoclast, really different to where you are if this is in the workplace, really different views and so forth. Certainly again this sense that you could move towards an environment that is going to be more suited to you if that's the case. You are going to be ambitious. Like once you know what you want, once you've sorted this out, you'll get the Aries energy. That's the tarot card of the Emperor. And what I like about that is the energy around you, that's like the Emperor the right way up, moving away from the Emperor being the wrong way up. So you starting to be the ringmaster, not letting somebody else be that. So very much that sort of energy. You could potentially be Aries, have Aries strongly in your chart in some way. You don't have to be. There's just that energy of ambition, fire, dynamism, and also being able to stick to something once you've made the decision. Now, I do think, even though we've got the fixed card here, which is, fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So again, these are signs that might be strong in your chart, and it is about stability. I think this is talking about making sure you make the decision once you have more information so that you can have a fixed energy, you can be stable in what you move to. In fact, you may have felt that career, money and things like that were very unstable during 2021. This certainly suggests you're moving towards something that has more stability and foundation to it, even if by January it's still being sorted through. It could, this could classically be the potential new job offer, an interview done in December, then in January, February, the contract, the details are worked out and so forth, and then you can actually settle to something. So that's potentially the energy there. So to finish up, pile 1, just want to pull 3 Astro Chakra cards just to see what other energy around the chakras and also some other astrological energy Spirit thinks it is good for you to reflect on, use, or that you will be experiencing and building in December 2021 and moving into the new year. Okay, so this is a big, whatever you are breaking free from, it's a big thing. You're really moving forward. We've got sort of Aries, Mars, we've got that kind of energy again. So it's very, very, very strong in terms of becoming more who you want to be, coming out more with what you want to be in whatever area of your life this is. There's certainly creativity around it. So let's talk first about creativity. Creativity here is picking up the fact that we've got the sacral chakra, the second chakra. So that is anything from creativity in terms of fertility to creativity on broader levels, in being more fertile and abundant in what you want to do. And we've got Jupiter there. So Jupiter is all about wisdom. So understanding and honesty here. There's something, you may literally have to speak your truth to move towards something new. Now, I'm not saying necessarily if you're in a difficult work environment to kind of blurt it all out. It may be just speaking your truth about your vision to others in an interview, for instance, that allows you to do that. But your honesty about who you are and what you want to do, which is that Hermit reversed, is going to be highly creative for you. It's the thing that starts to draw this in and release you. But be careful, obviously, with it, because you may be at the moment in the wrong environment, to be fully honest. So be judicious about how you do that, because communication is huge for you. It's not just sort of being honest. It's going to be a very big thing, how you communicate, who you communicate to, and there's an enormous amount of transformative energy around this. So this is the throat chakra coming up twice, and we have Pluto and Mars. That is like having Pluto and Mars conjunct in your chart. What that means is you have a huge transformative energy around how you communicate in the world and your ambitions in the world, which again makes me feel that most of this is around career, creativity in some way. There's an enormous amount of transformative power, but it is important to always balance it with Jupiter, with the wisdom here, and be thinking about what you're trying to create in the future, because this energy is almost like burn it all down, and then hopefully rise like the phoenix from the ashes. And you could potentially do that, but this is really saying using wisdom is what you create later. And I think with what we got right at the beginning, it's not as clear as you would like it to be by the end of December. So it's like, keep your energy to yourself to the degree that you need to. Go through the transformation that you need to. That embrace the dark is very much a Mars-Pluto type of energy as well too. Learn from it. Be ready, but focus on what is creative, what you're trying to bring in, not what you're trying to burn down, because that will look after itself, part one. If you've got something new to move to, it will look after itself. But don't underestimate the amount of energy and power that you have and that you are going to be bringing through into the new year. And it's really, the important thing is to make sure you use that transformation and what you communicate to the world to really and truly and honestly create who you want to be in the world. That way you'll be more appreciated. That way you'll be inspired. See yourself in nature. See yourself in creativity and fertility and so forth. So very interesting times. I do think you've been through quite a lot of constraint in 2021. I think you are going to be released, and you're going to get that real taste of that in December. And into the new year, it's what you want to create that's more true to you. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if it does, you know what this is. Love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. This first line of cards is some of the key themes and energies in December 2021 itself, and then we're going to use some cards around the 2021 reflection, lessons, blessings and so forth, and then going into January 2022, the preview of coming attractions, as I said before. I think there's a couple of things showing up in this as a narrative, and I guess I could read them both. One is sort of like almost a subset of another. So let me talk that through so this makes sense to you. To start with, the first card here is the Eight of Pentacles. So this gives me a sense that there's something in December that you've been working on. It's study, a craft. This literally could be for some people that you are finishing a year's study, or some sort of qualification, something like that, or you've been working on your craft in some way and you've really reached a level of mastery in something that you've done. Now, if this is around career or creativity, then what comes from that, I believe, is an offer. So I think that if you have reached that sort of level and you've been working on something, it is going to start to come to fruition for you in December 2021. You are going to have some form of an offer or an opportunity coming off the back of all your hard work and the skills that you've developed. And one of the questions around it will be, is that what you emotionally want to do? And I suspect it is likely to be, because the Page of Cups is the right way up. But the question around that, if you've put a lot of work into something, is how do you then bring the heart into it, I guess? How do you make sure that the skills that you have, you then take that forward in a way that really matters to you? And it looks to me, if that's the case, that you need to, you've been through a period of a lot of contemplation. There's a kind of a connection between these two. Some of you may in fact have been developing spiritual gifts and some sort of spiritual offering with those two there, but that's specific. For a more general thing, it's like part of what is developing what matters to you and how to use these skills is a spiritual or an internal reflective process. And Spirit is certainly saying that meditating on those sort of things, really thinking about, getting to your heart chakra, what really moves that sort of energy for you, how do you best use these skills that you have, that's an important thing to do, because your mental energy around it is a little bit scattered, and you could even trick yourself in a way, and others could potentially trick you. Either of those sort of things could happen. With the Seven of Swords reversed, there is a sense sometimes that energy can be a bit tricky, it can be a little bit gaslighty or not what you would want. So there is potentially for some of you something here where others may want you to use your skills in a particular way, but you want to use it in a different way. And it's important for you to go into your inner knowing in your heart, not to be led by what other people want. Doesn't necessarily mean that they mean harm, but they just have very fixed opinions if that's the case, and they're not above trying to make you think like they think and do what they do and so forth. So there's a bit of an energy around that potentially, and if not, it's about you not tricking yourself and not saying that, if you were trying to judge between two job offers that come from the skills that you have, going, well, a job that you don't really feel the heart for, but it's going to pay you more, you could trick yourself into going, oh yes, I do care about this as well, for instance. So there's a bit of reflection needed in this time if this is around that. And you may, one of the reasons why you need the reflection is that this offer, this energy coming through to you, it looks like it's been a bit of a long time coming. You've been working very hard, putting a lot of your ambition into something, not just the skills, but into that. And the Nine of Wands is the keep on keeping on sort of energy. And so it's like just at that point where you could really start to maximize what you've done, you could take the first offer, for instance, and that may not be true to your heart. That's the kind of sense. And it looks to me as though there will be more than one opportunity. There will be one that is right for you, whether it's there right in December or whether it's more into the new year. Time will tell, but it is important to make sure that you are true to yourself in how you use your skills, that you don't, as I say, just rush into something because you just want to get to the finish line. The other way of reading it is potentially around a relationship. So there is potentially an emotional offer after a period of being alone, or it could be an emotional offer that's connected to your spiritual sort of inner self coming through, that kind of thing. If that's the case, then the work that you've done on yourself, and I do think you will have done work on yourself spiritually and emotionally to let this energy in, is very likely to pay off. But again, it's like you might be a little bit gun shy, like do you even want a relationship? It looks, if that's the case, like maybe relationships have been a bit tricky for you during the year. So again, it's about being true to yourself and being prepared to be alone until the right offer comes, because you are ready now for the more secure and the more mature relationship, if that's the case. If it is about emotional energy too, I'm getting some of you may still have someone around you who just kind of keeps hanging on, or you might keep hanging on to, but it's not necessarily you've done the work you need to do. You need to sever that if that's the case. So if you are around someone who plays a little bit, it's a bit manipulative, that kind of is really exhausting and isn't really what you want, then it's better potentially to be alone, because that allows the new energy to come in. So let's use the tarot to ask 3 cards for each of, firstly, what are the reflection on 2021 as a whole, and then the preview into early 2022 and the new year. Okay, so I do think this is making me think, for most, this is more around skills, career and opportunities than relationship, but I will touch on both. But there's really a strong sense here of you having achieved something during 2021. You've done something. There's cause for celebration around it. You've self-actualized. You really are very, very good at something. Whatever this is you've really proved it, whether it's through formal qualifications, whether it's through just building that. And there has been recognition of that. That's why this offer is coming through. This opportunity is coming through. And it's also why it's important not to just grab the first thing, because you really are very, very good at whatever it is this is referring to. You really are, and people see it. People really recognize it. And people would probably want to collaborate with you as well if that's the case. So the Queen of Wands, self-actualized, confident sort of person. Six of Wands is recognition. Three of Cups is celebration. So there's something during 2021 that you have really achieved, and you've really stepped up, and people have really seen who you are and what your potential is. Going into the new year, that gives you some options and choices around what direction to go in with the Three of Wands. Again, potentially you may have, with 2 3s here, this could be suggesting that there are collaborative partners around you that could go on a journey with you, and you're certainly going to feel a lot happier. It looks like that you were building this and you've got the recognition, and that's wonderful. But whatever you were doing while you were building those skills, you were maybe not that emotionally in touch with. And there's still that sort of thing of like, don't go back into that. Make sure that you really leverage what you have here, because you don't have to shortchange yourself. Don't allow that to happen, and communicate out as broadly as you can. The Page of Swords always suggests to me social media, online businesses, connections, networking, and so forth. So this is definitely saying that you don't need to settle for second best. You don't need to just do whatever it is to make money over time. There may be a transition period if you've been building towards something very creative and wonderful, but you've had to sort of like also pay the bills, and that may still be the case into the new year. But the more you connect with others, the more you move away from this sort of sense of the daily grind and into the promise of this. So I do think the recognition is coming through, and I do think at least one potential offer is likely to surface during December. It's going to be up to you as to whether it's the right one for you though or not. If it's relationship, then again, it looks to me like you've come to a sense of yourself in a relationship, of who you want to be, and that's that. And fiery, passionate, attractive, you draw a lot of people to you. There is a possibility with these cards, and then we see 2 3s, that you could have been in a situation in 2021 where there was maybe a third party, around a relationship. That's a possibility. But it does suggest that if that's the case, you're moving out of that energy, and it's about communicating what you want and drawing the right people to you if that's the case. But I do think for most this is more around career or your presence in the world in some way. So now we're going to use some oracles, pile 2, looking at December and then into the new year for each of them, just to get some overarching energies around all of this. So firstly, December. Okay, so I think the discomfort's picking up whatever this is. I think there's a realization for you about how much more you could do in the world, or in a relationship, how much happier you could be. And that does bring some discomfort when you realize maybe that you have compromised. Like that, in a sense, is that energy there of compromising what you could have done just to sort of get something done. So there is maybe a bit of discomfort to go through in sorting out what you need to do, but I think that's a very positive energy, because if you put in the background of that you start to realize that discomfort comes from knowing who you are and what you can bring to the world and to your career and to your life, then it's a very liberating sort of energy. And then connections into the new year. Yes, it's definitely saying make connections, find the people that you can move forward with, find the right people, don't settle. Make sure that you do that kind of energy to sort of get out there. So again, it's like classically, if this was sort of someone who had finished some form of qualification, then you get out there with your resume and you'll make the right connections. If it's someone who's created something, then you get out there with some of those sort of ideas, you find the right collaborators and supporters. What else, Spirit? Okay, all right. So firstly, freedom to try new things. I think this is saying you're free to try new things because you have the skills now. Do not, again, undersell yourself. Do not settle. The discomfort, of course, in new things is, well, am I going to be able to do it? But this is really saying, yes, you are. You have all the skills that you need to do these new things. You're not in a situation where you're overinflating your worth. You might be the type with the Hermit there to undersell yourself and to sort of hide yourself away and just hope somebody will notice that you're good. But this is really saying, try the new things. People see you so much more strongly than you possibly see yourself. And then it says over here, love. Now, I think that works on two levels. So I think it is saying that for some, this is about relationship. It's about having done the work on yourself and feeling good in yourself to move away from patterns that don't work and move into ones that are much more passionate and loving. So that's great. And again, through the connections you make, so you're going to find that person, I would say, early in 2022. It may also, around career, be saying moving towards something that you love. Once you try new things, you can move towards doing what you love, something that takes you, frees and liberates that Four of Cups energy in the way that reversed promises it can do, where it's sort of like coming out of that sense of not being happy and settling into something that you love. Okay, what's the messages to you? Okay, so we've got we are all connected. So I think that's really saying in December, think about the connections that you make, because that's the point. There will be other people like you. You can find your soul tribe, you can find your creative tribe, you can find the right people, and those connections you can start really in December around that, because that starts that energy going. So connections again are important. This says be vigilant, and I just think it's balancing those energies. So those energies from December where you have to deal with your own possibility of kind of settling just to sort of finalize something. It's being more vigilant with your connection so you bring the right thing in, so that you don't undersell yourself, because that's the one risk. As I say, you are so talented. Don't undersell yourself. So what can you manifest coming off this? Okay, so success, you're going to, pass that study with flying colours. You're going to create that wonderful new thing. You're going to try new things and find that you are so much more skilled than you thought. December has got a lot of energy around new things and growth and success and bringing that in. And I think you'll have that taste of it. You'll start to realise what you could really do, and that it's the beginning of a journey that is glorious. And then what you really start to bring to this is your intellect. See, your mind is very, very sharp, pile two, but you've used it against yourself. You've almost used it to attack yourself in the past, like to limit what you could do, to doubt what you could do. But I think that what is coming in December, whatever this sort of like recognition is and so forth, allows that intellect to start to work for you to really start to work out the fine print when you need to, when somebody might be gaslighting you, so that they cannot ever do that again, but also to take things forward with that intellectual rigor where your mind is working for you. Because of course, when our mind is very strong and we expect the worst, we can bring that into being. When our mind is strong and we expect the best because we can see what we bring to the table, and we have pride that is justified, then that is a very, very powerful force. And it picks up the Page of Swords as well there too, that kind of really starting to see who you are on an intellectual level. It's why I get a feeling that many people here, it's maybe about qualification or something. It's something where you've really shone about being new and inventive and smart, like just so smart. So let's have a look at some astrological energy for you. We're going to close out with some astrological energy for December and into the new year. And then we'll look at the Astro Chakra cards just for any further energy around that for you as I full stop, so to speak, on the reading for you at this point. Actually, I'm looking at this here, I'm seeing 9-9 twice. I think I'm being drawn to that. I think that's sort of showing certain things are ending in December to bring new things in. And again, it's you've run the course that you needed to run. So astrological energy. Okay, we'll come to that one because that is an aspect, so we'll look at the planets that are involved. But firstly, Virgo. So Virgo is, again, I feel this is around career, it's around the structure of your life, It is around the intellect as well too, but the intellect in a very material way, bringing things into being. So the tarot card for that is the Hermit. So you may be very strongly drawn to the Hermit as a type of symbol or energy. It also could be that your Virgo itself, Virgo Sun, Virgo Moon, Virgo Ascendant, lots of planets in Virgo, that could be the case. It doesn't have to be. The celestial bodies associated with Mercury, which is all about communication, which is all about the connections and so forth that we saw that was important over here. So Virgo, I think, is just saying bringing things into being. And it is about health, and it's about the structure in your life and so forth. So I think it is really, particularly with the 10th house, again, saying for most people who've come to this reading, this is about who you are in the world and your career. It doesn't mean there couldn't be love coming as well too on a romantic level, but if so, maybe it's connected to your career. It's going to be somebody you meet because of your career. The planet for the 10th house is Saturn. So this has been something you've built for quite a period of time. It's like the Eight of Pentacles in some ways fits that idea that you have mastery after doing something for 10,000 hours. So it's that you really have put in the work. You've built towards whatever this is, and you should own it. Its ruling sign is Capricorn, so there's again earth and earth, again that sort of sense. So I feel this is very material, and it's very, very promising because it's about honours and awards and achievement and so forth. So it's very much a month to celebrate what you've achieved and what you can do with that going forward. Square energy is tension, so there are some tensions, and as I said, there is some tension over here around how people maybe have communicated with you, or jumping in before you have all the information, or underselling yourself. So I'm just shuffling the deck, and I'm then going to deal out until I get 2 planets or asteroids to see what this square energy is for you. Okay, Saturn's one of them. So we've got Saturn twice, with Saturn in the 12th house. Saturn and the Sun. Okay. All right. So I think what this is definitely saying for most of you, the energy that is tricky is more the way you view yourself than it is other people. It doesn't mean that some of you have come here, there may be tricky people around you and you've learned and you won't be fooled again, sort of thing. But for many, this is about the journey, that the hard yards journey that you've done to move towards your life path. But there's a square energy here. Saturn can be a little bit severe sometimes. It can be the perfectionist. It can be hard on itself and so forth. Whereas the Sun wants to say, I am, and wants to evolve. Saturn wants to say, yeah, but with limitations, and be true to yourself and so forth. You know, like don't get above yourself. This tension suggests to me, again, the sense that you underestimate yourself quite often, that you're your harshest critic. So the important thing is to release that Saturn energy on that level and make it more about bringing things into being, particularly in your career or how you are in the world, because that's part of your life path. And I think it's also saying that part of your life path is recognizing whether it was something that you dealt with from childhood, or whether it's just something that came in with your soul, that you have so many talents and so much potential, but you tend to hold yourself back. You tend to sit in this hermit thing. It's almost as though you have such a potential for a glorious career, but in whatever form that is to you, but you almost feel like somehow that's not spiritual, or that's not your life path. But this is saying it is, that you can marry the two things. You actually have done the work and you deserve the success. So let's finish off with some Astro Chakra cards to just see what final advice Spirit has for you, pile 2, for December 2021. Okay, so we've got 3 chakras that are important here, and they really fit with what the reading has been. So firstly, spirituality. This is going back to the Hermit. This is why I feel that's very much kind of typical of who you are. It connects to you on some very fundamental level. And this is the 7th chakra, so that is the crown chakra. It's about spirituality, and we have the moon here, and that's acceptance. And this is to me a really key thing. You are going to start to accept who you are and who you can be. December 2021 is a pivotal time for that, to bring in the new energy for 2022, and understanding your emotional connection to your spiritual path, and how that can work for you rather than work kind of against you. in pursuing your career path or who you're going to be in the world. Creativity is important, your creative side, whatever you can bring into being, and communicating it with Mercury. So the sacral chakra is about creativity, fertility, abundance. Your communication can bring it in, but it's very interesting. It says true emotions. If you look at these two, I think it's picking up this tension that I think your spirituality, your emotional sense of self is so tied to your spirituality and what you think is the right spiritual thing to do, that you may accept less sometimes. And what this is saying is that in your creativity and in realizing who you are and who you're becoming and following your life path, Mercury, communication, allows you to know the true emotions. It's the ones that really are true to you, not the ones that maybe are spiritual. Maybe you've come from a very strict spiritual background, for instance, or something like that. Whatever it is, whatever that programming is, it's getting more to the heart of who you really are. And again, then Mercury with communication takes us to communication to the throat chakra and how you talk in the world, and you do it with love, with the Venus, and it's expressing your feelings. So this has such a feeling of a butterfly coming out of a chrysalis, of someone who finally understands that it's okay to be the butterfly, that they weren't meant to be the caterpillar. It's okay to fly. And in doing that and understanding in that, and that is both spiritual and also creative and true to yourself and what you're meant to be doing, you finally get to really express who you are. And if this is around relationship, then there's a much better, much more beautiful communication and capacity to express love coming in as well too, if it's about that. So yes, I think overall you are a star too. You really have done the work. You really do deserve now to reap the benefits of that and take that forward. But you have to understand that that isn't diminishing anything spiritual in you. That isn't being not true to yourself. What is not true to yourself is the programming you might have had that sort of held you back and felt you were never right at the finish line. You're meant to get to the finish line and then start the new race and really move forward. So I hope that that's helpful for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. This first row of cards is to look at the sort of narrative or the dominant sort of energies for December 2021 for you. And then we'll have a look at the sort of reflection over 2021 and then into the preview of coming attractions into 2022. There's a couple of ways of reading these cards, I think. The first one, and sort of almost as an overarching one that may then impact to some degree on the second level that I look at this, but the first one is about December 2021 being a time for you to move away from something that was conventional in some way or structured or expected of you, that took a lot of energy out of you and you need to release from that, and that is more true to who you are in terms of how you think, your philosophy, your beliefs and so forth, and how you want to communicate, because there's something in this energy that you've been in that was not true to what you felt. And in fact, I think it looks to me like many of you might have been, say, in a career or around some sort of group or community cause or even something religious or spiritual that took a lot out of you, and maybe even like demanded a lot of study and a lot of conviction and so forth, but which was not emotionally resonant and possibly was not even completely true to your heart in some way, and that it required you to sit more in your head and philosophy and so forth, and almost in a judgment stance as opposed to in a position of emotional empathy and warmth. It looks to me like and this could be in your career, as I say, or it could be in some sort of spiritual thing, or even within sort of a friendship circle or something. It's almost like you're required to take on the position of being a judge. You may literally be working in the legal system in some way, but you're coming across very strongly as the King of Swords. King of Swords is very fair, but has to live in the mind. And the King of Cups is reversed, which suggests to me a sense of feeling detached from the emotional side of things. And it's been quite exhausting. The good news is, whatever this is, you're coming out of it. So even if you are in some traditional sort of career, some sort of traditional group, you're coming out of that sense that you only have to look at things that way. You're going to start to think about how to communicate more about what you feel and your empathy towards others. I'm getting that some of you may literally be in positions of authority and you've had to take a very firm firm position, like it could have been an organisation that was downsizing and you had to hold firm to that and the legal side of things, and it kind of broke your heart a bit by the looks of things if that's the case. It just feels like you've had to do that, or that's been happening around you. Things that were formerly secure have become less secure, and you've had to be the person in your family, around your friends who kind of shepherded everybody else through it, and it's taken toll on you. But it looks to me like you are starting to release that energy. You're starting in December to it's almost like the calm after the storm, and you're now looking at it and really using a very, very sharp mind to work out what has been the emotional toll on you and how can you communicate now in the future in a way that is more collaborative and less about you being the boss, or less being required of you. Now, the other way of reading this is around relationship. If that's the case, it looks like in December and probably in the months leading up to this, because these sort of things don't happen quickly, there's been a major shift around a long-term, probably fairly conventional sort of relationship. And you, for whatever reason, again, during December or even leading up to it, have had to be very much about the facts and so forth as the energy around it is released and the emotion around it is released. For some, and this is very specific, it could be signaling the end of a very complex separation, and you will still in December be holding yourself to what you believe around this and how to communicate that, and in a sense protecting your heart, but it would be an energy of liberation if that was the case. So it doesn't necessarily feel to me that it's about somebody, who's done you wrong, or that you've done anybody wrong. It doesn't really feel like that. I mean, it's possible with the King of Cups that some of you might have been dealing with someone who wasn't being emotionally honest, and you've had to call them on that and move so that you can move forward. But I think if this is about relationship, it's a shift from something fairly significant. If it's not a relationship, then it may be that you've been very much constrained in how you do a relationship by what you've been taught to think about it, and what again is sort of like your culture or your spiritual group or whatever it might be, and you've started to see how much of a toll that's taking on you and how hard it is to be true to that. So there's definitely a shift. But I think for me it's a shift away from either having to be the person in control and the person who makes the decisions when there's a lot of chaos around, into a more collaborative side of things that starts to bring the energy in for the new year, or it is you starting to get more true to your heart as well as your beliefs in some way around relationships. So it's an interesting energy. Pile 3. Let's ask Spirit for 3 cards that are really about the reflection on the year, that we've been through, 2021. Because I think none of this energy is not sort of something that just pops up in December. If you've come to the right pile, you'll know what this is, because it's all been building for some time. So we'll have a look at what Spirit thinks you should reflect on in terms of December, and then what's the energy coming through in the new year for you. Okay, so firstly over here for the energy of the year, this does look like it was something that was like kind of firm, a foundation and so forth, but you're shifting out of the energy of that. There's been something that has disrupted everything, the Knight of Swords around it. So whether that's you realizing this wasn't working for you anymore, which it could very well have been with the Knight of Swords, it's usually the card where you start to move much faster than other people. You see the implications of things more than other people do. You sometimes do things that surprise people, so that's possible. Or whether it is a surprising electric change energy that was around, sort of like Uranus in astrology, that kind of sense of things moving very fast suddenly and shaking the foundations a bit and shaking the sense of calm. I do think that prior to whatever this was, and it could have been something in a workplace that came out of the pandemic, I mean it could be anything really, prior to whatever it was, there was probably a period of quite a lot of calm and everything seemed to be sort of structurally and intellectually right and so forth, but something really has shaken everything up, either for you internally in terms of what you believe and what you want to do with your life, or something external that has shaken up the foundations of something in some way. And I think Spirit is saying that it was time for that release. that you couldn't have sat just in the Six of Swords forever, because that energy, if it had been the right way up, is like calm and peace of mind. There is something that's shifting out of that, whether it's because you're no longer in the right place for you and you just had to kind of have something a bit tumultuous happen to see it, or whether it's that the foundations of whatever this was, a job, a career, not your overall career, but an organisation that you're in, needed to go through change. It was going to happen anyway to some degree. So it's definitely saying that it's the quirky side of the Knight of Swords that's worth reflecting on, rather than the more kind of rigid King of Swords. You definitely have this sort of position of power, authority, or sovereignty to your own way of thinking at the very least, but a little bit of the energy of change and being open to change and open to deal with chaos for a while is something worth considering to bring in the new. Because this is saying that you become very clear in the new year about what is not giving you a return for your investment, with the Seven of Pentacles reversed. So whether it's a career thing that's no longer working for you, whether it's a relationship that's no longer working for you, whatever it is, you become very clear on that, and you become clear on the choices around relationship and who you ultimately want to be. It's interesting. What I'm getting is that where you've been sitting, as I say, is in this sort of situation of like really working with what's in your mind and your philosophy and suppressing the emotion. And it's almost like if you could get those more in balance, you become more grounded in what you do. You move from those two kings into the King of Pentacles. So I think it is saying that if things have been unstable materially, you are moving towards more stability, but you have to recognize what wasn't working anymore, and you have to make the decisions about the people that you connect to do that. If this is about relationship, it's saying that there is going to be an opportunity, I think, for a new relationship coming through, but you first of all have to have sorted through and let go of what wasn't working, so that you can define what you look like in a longer term relationship. What is that to you? So either way, whether it's career or relationship, it is a process, and you can use your very sharp mind for that, but don't forget your heart. Like, look at both of those things, get both of those things in balance, and be comfortable with a period of uncertainty and change. So let's have a look at some of the oracles that were intuitively chosen for this particular pile. And so we're going to, with each of these, be looking at the energy of December and then the energy coming in. So the energy of December. Okay, so this picks up this energy particularly because intuition, this is you moving out of your head and more into your sort of spiritual knowing, something that's more you, more around your individuality, not around what is coming from other people's belief structures that you maybe have been asked to be the steward of in some way. This is you using your intuition, those flashes of inspiration and so forth that have come through. You're actually, I think, very psychic. You get a lot of stuff channeled, but I don't think you necessarily always recognize that's what it is. I think you just think it's thinking. But for you, there is a real sort of sense of unique and different thoughts that come are also intuitive and psychic in some way. And so really focusing on that and what your intuition tells you, not getting too much into your head, because that will balance those two out better, is something to do, because what you need to be is more individual. It just feels like you've been straitjacketed, pile 3. It's like, because you are very good at whatever you do, or you are very responsible in your family, or you've been in a very long-term relationship where expectations were around you about being a particular person in that, you haven't really been able to be yourself. And there's something about going through this chaos and this change that allows you to be more individual and to express your individuality more. What else, Spirit? So on a starry road means that in December, you're going to know you're starting to be on the right path, in the right direction. And it's saying kind of relax a bit, have a bit of fun, just follow the North Stars, so to speak. So again, if you feel like you're somehow letting other people down, or letting your own philosophy down, or whatever, or that you should be far more rigid and careful because of all the chaos that's been around, this is saying, no, actually try and enjoy this and try and get into your intuition, because that's going to connect you with what you need to be. Emerald is all about things green, nature and so forth. It's also about focusing on who you want to be and becoming that gem in your own life, I guess. So it's saying again that you and this nature sort of side of things, some of you may move from a very intellectual role, for instance, into something that's more connected with the earth or nature. I'm just getting that some of you may be in that sort of thing, or it may be getting to what causes joy, warmth, growth and so forth for you physically as well too, that this may have been taking a bit of a toll on you. You might have been feeling a bit burnt out. It might be all the change and all the tension around you has been quite draining. So getting back to nature and so forth. So let's ask the messengers what messages they have for you. Okay, so be patient in December. Let the rest of the change goes through. Let up on yourself a bit. Trust in that. Be patient. Things are moving in the right direction. And know your power. So your power, I think you know it on one level, as I said, but you know it very intellectually. You are very, very smart and you know you're smart. And that's powerful, but there's more to you than that. And you, as I say, it's sort of like you move out of just the realm of ideas and managing emotions into manifestation with the King of Pentacles. You have the power to manifest your individual truth, the growth and the abundance that you want, and to bring the right love into your life if that's what you want, if that's part of what this is. But it's knowing your power, not just knowing that you have it, but knowing how to use it rather than, in a sense, straitjacketing yourself with it. What can you manifest, pile 3, if you take Spirit's advice? Okay, there you go. Strength. Understanding your strength. You're a very, very strong person. That's not the issue. And you should know it because you've been dealing with some real stuff, you know, and I think having to be a leader in it in one form or another, work, career, family, love relationships, friendships, whatever it is. And you really come to know your strength, but I think you come to know it on a broader level. You come to back yourself a bit more, which is really important because you can bring in the new year abundance. That's that manifestation again. It's like you're meant to manifest what you want, not just kind of judge and watch over and control and bring order into chaos. You're actually meant to create out of chaos. You're meant to actually be the magician in a way, that sort of energy. So let's have a look at some astrology energy for you in December and leading into 2022. Okay, so firstly we have water, and I think that's picking up this King of Cups reversed. It is saying that it is just as important to care about how you feel as it is how you think. I think that's a aha moment you're going to have if you haven't already had it around getting to this point where you can bring abundance in. The signs that are triggered by that are Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces, so you may be one of those or have that strongly in your chart. You don't have to be. I think it's just really very much around being ready to sort of flow and be fluid and connect to your emotions as much as your intellect, because it's the two of those together that brings out the power that, as I say, creates the master manifestor, the King of Pentacles. First quarter is important, things picking up speed, decisions that you need to make, you know, all those sort of things, some challenges potentially. So knowing your power and having an eye on what you want to actually create is important, and it very much says the first quarter, that's the first quarter moon, but it's also suggesting to me the first quarter of 2022 is important. And Mars is all around your energy, your ambition, your power in the world, and really taking that forward. The tarot card for it is the Tower, and I think it's picking up, you've been in a few Tower moments, I'd say, in 2021, and I think it's learning from that and taking that energy forward and understanding, you know, the phrase I act, because that's what you did. You know, you were able to keep a cool head while other people were losing their sort of equilibrium all around you. So being aware of that and taking that forward, there's a sense that out of that chaos comes the order, comes the energy, comes a lot more for you in 2022. So to finish off, let's just ask for some Astro Chakra cards that will give us some other advice about what to balance and to think about for your greatest well-being in December 2021 and leading into 2022. Okay, So it is saying love is really important. So that, as I say, for some of you, this will be about a love relationship or how you want to love and all that kind of thing. And it certainly, again, it would be suggesting it's been tricky in this year, but you're moving into a better cycle where you can connect more your head and your heart and really bring into being what you want. But it's also, I think, about the fact that you bring love to what you do, but it's like, I don't think people necessarily see it. They see the sort of intellect and they see the judgment and the quick decisions and the leader. They don't necessarily, what you tend to hide and protect is what you feel. And realising that and thinking about how to communicate better around that is important leading into next year. The interesting thing is that you have in the fourth chakra, so the heart chakra, the love chakra, you have both Saturn and Neptune. And that's a bit like having Saturn and Neptune conjunct. And that is such a good description of you in a way, pile 3, because it is the Saturn there and the discipline and the focus feels like the King of Swords. And then the Neptune, the inspiration, feels like the King of Cups. I think it is, again, saying at the moment you're a little bit out of balance. You sit more in Saturn, in what can be evidence-based and rigorous and philosophical, but there's also the inspiration. To bring in your abundance, you need to also be listening to your heart and to the inspiration that comes to you. And it's good that you have the Saturn here for the patience, because Saturn does actually provide patience. So it is saying you will have the patience to do what you want to do, but you do need to have that sense of the heart as well. And these connected, it's about forgiveness as well. So it may be forgiving yourself for the way that you've been operating if you feel that you've been a bit detached from people, or it might be forgiving somebody around you that allows you to release the energy. There is a sense here that either you've been required to be a particular way and you've got to forgive yourself for being more true to yourself, or that you've had these ideas around what relationships should be and you need to kind of release that and forgive those who aren't in alignment with that. And you can use your intuition. You've actually got a very strong psychic sense with the sixth chakra, the third eye chakra here, and that is how you communicate and you expand your knowledge, as it says. So tune into that. I get the sense that you get a lot downloaded to you that feels like thoughts, but they're actually a telepathic connection, channeling from the divine or picking up other people around you. It's probably one of the reasons actually that you have been seen as a leader and somebody that people go to, because even though you don't necessarily rate yourself on it, there is this sort of psychic understanding, being able to read a room, being able to understand the energies that you have. And so becoming more aware of that and communicating from that basis is going to be really important to manifesting, bringing in this magician energy I keep getting around you. So I hope that that's helpful, pile 3, and I hope it resonates for you. And I hope that it gives some good advice leading into 2022 for you. If you enjoyed the reading, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if this does resonate and you can see what it is, love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.